it gives me comfort to know that I was fortunate enough to have his positive impact on my life. A lot of time has passed, but this is something that still feels so real. His name was Chris Faughnan. He worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. He was a bond broker, and he was on the 103rd floor. We didn't hear from him that day, and he was working like everybody else. It was 6:30 in the morning, and I got a call from my dad saying that the North Tower of the Trade Center had been hit, and he kept asking me what tower was Chris in. I hung up the phone. This was before, I'd access the internet, or I certainly didn't have a TV in my office, and I ran down to my car and I put on the radio, and KBCO was on, that usually has music, and they were covering it, and every radio station was covering it, and I just thought to drive to my family's house in Arvada, and we have a big family, and there was about 25 of us there, tucked in this little room watching the TV like everybody else in the country. And when that tower fell, it was so devastating. But we held up hope, and I got online with a friend who had worked in the building, and she'd worked for another financial company, and she was in there when it struck, and we were back and forth online, and I kept asking her, has anybody seen anybody from Cantor Fitzgerald? It was probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and she sent me a note, because I asked her many, many times, and said, no, Michael, she hasn't seen. She hadn't seen anybody from Cantor, and that's when I knew. That's when our family knew. I think this is a day that everybody feels a loss, and there's a connection, I think, as a community and as a nation that we all have on this day. Following that very tragic day, we united as people, as a community, as a nation, and you think of what occurred that day, people helping each other, bringing them to safety, risking their own lives without a thought of themselves. My neighbor, drove up here today because he knows the depth of this, and he didn't know Chris, and it's that type of compassion that it helps you get through days like today, and situations that arise, and I take a lot of comfort in that. And I think when we think of September 11th and how we picked ourselves up and united as a country for a common good, for a common compassion, we should let the spirit of that day guide us today.